I want you to imagine a world where Goku doesn't become Super Saiyan, he doesn't become Super Saiyan 3, and instead he just starts off Dragon Ball with Ultra Instinct in his back pocket. Imagine the lack of excitement that Goku would have fighting if that were the case. I mean, what would Goku do with his regular day? Yeah, of course, he'd probably still eat like crazy, but that's pretty much all he'd have. There would be no passion for training. There would be no passion for fighting stronger enemies because he would just squash them all in one punch. And that's what brings us to the topic of this video and what I think to be the greatest anime ever created, and that is One Punch Man. Now, Saitama is a very interesting character, and I could spend the majority of this video just talking about him and how complex of a situation he's in, being so powerful that he lacks any kind of real compassion or enthusiasm for life. But frankly, there's plenty of videos out there talking about that. Instead, I wanted to take a look at what I think is the reason that One Punch Man is such a great show, and that is the supporting cast of characters around Saitama, who can't even begin to fathom the power that Saitama has. You see, because in my opinion, it's these characters and their daily struggles that really make this show shine. Not to take away from Saitama, I too think that he is an incredible character as well. But in my opinion, it's the struggle of all the characters around Saitama that really make this show shine. Take for instance Genos. He's a total badass, he's half human, half cyborg, and he has a quest for revenge to find the people who killed his family when he was a young boy. When Genos meets Saitama, he is in awe of his power and he wants to train with Saitama to be able to figure out what it is that makes Saitama so darn powerful. But when Saitama finally tells him what he did to get so powerful, Genos is upset because it just doesn't make any sense.
Master, you are so full of crap! Huh? That is nothing more than standard strength training!
And I love that as an audience, we get to see Genos try to figure out in real time what the hell is going on with Saitama that is giving him so much darn power. We get to see him continuously rack his brain about what it is that Saitama has that he doesn't. And it's the little things in the show like this that make me love this show so much. Everybody thinks they're a total badass until they meet Saitama, who is not a very intimidating looking character, but when they see what he can do, it just shatters their reality. Which brings me back to Genos, which is why I think that he's such an important character, because he gives us the perspective of a guy who does everything he possibly can to get stronger while constantly being reminded of his inadequacies when he's around Saitama. I think this makes for a very interesting dynamic, and I can imagine that if you were somebody who spent all day, every day training, and then you were just constantly next to a guy who could do whatever it is that you wanted to without any effort, that would drive you insane. This show does an amazing job of highlighting that classic trope where some talent just comes to people so easily while others have to work religiously to be able to achieve even a quarter of the success that some people who have been gifted with talent get to enjoy on a regular basis. Saitama could easily take over this whole entire universe if he wants to, but he chooses to be a good person because that's just kind of how he's wired. But then you also get characters like Mumen Rider who show you what Saitama probably would have been like had he not gotten the godly power that he was gifted. And that's just a guy who has the will to continue to fight no matter what, even if the odds are stacked against him, because what's most important to him is just doing the right thing. And it's these relationship dynamics between characters like Saitama and Mumen Rider who really show you that Saitama is a good guy, because he can look at Mumen Rider and see just how heroic this guy actually is, as where a lot of other people look at Mumen Rider as kind of an afterthought because he's just a guy who throws his bike at people as one of his weapons. And you see time and time again Mumen Rider show up and help Saitama achieve what he needs to achieve. I'd probably dare say that Mumen Rider is probably one of the most important characters in this universe because he somehow always finds himself in the right place at the right time to help Saitama save the world. But he never gets credited for it because he's a C-class hero. He might be C-class rank 1, but it's his will and his ability to never say die that allows him to be in the right place and the right time to help Saitama save the dang world. A perfect example of this would be when the Sea King invaded the surface, took out not one but 2 S-class heroes, Puri Puri Prisoner and Genos. Not to mention he made Speed of Sound Sonic retreat, who is somebody who is on par with S-class heroes. But did that stop Mumen Rider from stepping to the Sea King and saying, listen, I'm gonna do my best. I'm probably gonna get my absolute butt kicked, but these people need me and I need to do it. Even to the point where he had the people behind him rallying him, telling him, you can do it, Mumen Rider.
It's not about winning or losing! It's about me! Taking you on right here and right now!
Enough of your rambling! Time to finish you off!
You can do it! You're the cyclist for justice!
He's right, get it!
Yeah, do
And then, of course, Mumen Rider got smacked down, but it's just the fact that this guy knew he was going to get his butt kicked, and it didn't stop him. That's the type of guy that Mumen Rider is. And that's why I think that Mumen Rider's a perfect example of somebody who probably would have been Saitama if Saitama wasn't gifted with this amazing power. Which leads to Saitama being the nice guy he is, basically telling all the people that the only reason he was able to beat the Sea King so easily was because of all the other heroes that came before him. Again, Saitama wants to feel anything, I guess even if that thing is negativity. One Punch Man does an amazing job of highlighting all the different characters that are heroes, villains, and even some of those who are in between. Take for instance the character of Speed of Sound Sonic, who is a guy who's a ninja raised in a ninja community. He probably could be a S-class hero if he chose to. However, he's more interested in making money and doing work for hire schemes. And eventually, it's not until he meets Saitama that he starts making some very reckless choices in a mode to try to reach Saitama's power and become a rival of the guy. Speed of Sound Sonic really lives inside of his ego. He'll do anything he can to be more powerful and to rival with Saitama, even if that means hurting innocent people. On the flip side of that, you also have a character named Suiryu, who, in my opinion, is an underrated character in One Punch Man. He's a guy who has been naturally gifted with the ability of martial arts, physical prowess. The ladies love him, but he's not interested in becoming a hero. He's more interested in fame and doesn't really understand why people want to become heroes until his life is in danger when the martial arts tournament gets invaded by monsters, who he defeats a few of them, but then eventually gets overpowered and then realizes how important heroes actually are. This incident leaves Suiryu as a changed man, a guy who's pretty much been gifted talent, all of a sudden learning in real time why it is that people want to become heroes. When 2 A-class heroes step up and try to protect him, even though they're gonna lose as well, even though they couldn't beat Suiryu in the tournament, he couldn't understand why they would want to help him. But the heroes tell Suiryu it's because that's what we do as heroes. We put our lives on the line to protect those who need us to. And I think that this situation right here really opens up Suiryu's eyes. And I think that it's really cool to watch somebody who's been very entitled in his life get a wake-up call as to why it is so important that heroes remain a thing in this universe. Then you have a character like Metal Bat, who's a guy that has a metal baseball bat that he hits people with. That's his special power, is just hitting people with a baseball bat. I guess, you know, he's a bit of a thug in that universe, and that's fine, it works for him. But the guy's also soft because the minute his sister shows up and she claims that he promised her that there would be no violence when she's around, he stops fighting. And if he doesn't, she ends up knocking him out, which makes me wonder, how strong is Metal Bat's little sister that she could karate chop him and knock him out after he was just going toe-to-toe with Garou? And another interesting aspect of that is that Garou, who is going to be the big bad in Season 3, who is a guy who's been able to find empathy with the monsters and has a lot of compassion for the monsters' plight and feels like they've been given a bad rap, ends up not fighting because Metal Bat's little sister told him not to. I think that Garou's got a soft spot for kids, Maybe it's an inner child within himself that makes him feel that way. All these things are very interesting dynamics to the show. And then you have a character like King, who is somebody who's always found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time, to the point where everybody thinks that he is Saitama, and that all of the credit that Saitama should have gotten have found their way to King, who, by the way, is an incredible gamer, not so much a good fighter in real life. I've seen a lot of people make jokes that if King were to be able to control some robots with his controller, he'd probably be an S-class hero for sure. But King is just a guy who likes to game and always found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time, and Saitama would continuously save him. But everybody would always end up giving that credit to King, and then he's just never corrected anybody and found himself at the top of the S-class because of the stuff that Saitama has done for him. And he never asks for this, but it ends up creating these interesting dynamics where these monsters are constantly searching out King, who's just a guy who wants to go home and play Heartbeat Hotties 3. But as interesting as all the characters in this show are, all of it fails in comparison to the way that the show is able to convey emotion through failure, through struggle, through perseverance, through success, all with a beautifully mastered soundtrack that makes us feel something as an audience. And it's all these things and more that I feel like One Punch Man is perhaps the greatest anime ever created. It begs you to ask the question, what happens when you've achieved your wildest dreams? Where do you go from there? Be careful what you wish for, because if you get it, you might not be able to figure out what you want to do next. What happens if you're too strong? What happens if you're around someone who has all the things that you wish that you could have, but yet you look at them and you feel sorry for them? It is crazy, it is exciting, it is funny, it is exhilarating, it is emotional, it is heartfelt. This show's got it all, and the animation is incredible. Not to mention the fact that I haven't even brought up the point yet that Class S Rank 1 hero Blast hasn't even been met yet. That is pretty crazy. The most powerful hero next to Saitama hasn't even shown up in the show yet. I think it's the mystery that surrounds stuff like that. The simple choices that make a character like that not show up is awesome. So with that said, guys, I hope that you will go down and comment your favorite hero or villain or monster from One Punch Man, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.